Online ESL companies can be a great place to start your online ESL teaching career, but it's not always as black and white as it seems. There's quite a few things that people don't tell you about when it comes to working for a company. So in today's session, we're going to look at the things that people don't seem to explain or they tend to miss out when you apply for companies. And it's not to scare you off, because I definitely advocate for starting with online ESL companies when you're just getting into teaching online. It's a great starting point, but it's not a forever plan. And we're going to look at why that might be and the things that you really need to think about when applying for an online ESL company. I'm from the OET, and I help support people, especially mums, start and succeed with an online ESL teaching career that they can do from home around their families. Now, in today's session, we are looking at the things that people don't really share or talk about when it comes to working with an online ESL company. Now, number one, let's get straight into it. You are not an employee. Most online ESL companies hire you as independent contractors or on a self-employed basis. And what this actually translates to is that there are no guaranteed hours, you don't get any benefits, your income can fluctuate, and your position isn't as secure as you would think it is by signing a contract. So let's just backtrack a second. When you're hired as an independent contractor, it means you're hired on a self-employed basis. So you're not paid for holiday leave. If you get sick, you lose out on pay. You're completely responsible for your taxes, and that can vary depending on what country that you're based in, but there are a lot of laws and legislation surrounding that, so you need to be hot on your taxes and legal information. You are 100% responsible. And it also means that the company can switch out, chop and change your hours, your bookings, even your pay rate at times. It does mean that your job is not as secure as you would think it is once you sign that contract. Now, the other flip side of this is it does mean that you have extra flexibility involved, in that you don't just, you're not limited to working with just one company. You can work with as many companies as you want at one time, but there is extra responsibility involved when you're hired as an independent contractor. Now, number two, you might spend some time in the beginning when you're with the company unpaid. So when you're completing your training, maybe some demo lessons, setting up your profile, all of those different things, you're not generally paid for that, which does suck. So if your onboarding training is just a couple of hours, that's okay. We can all spend a couple of hours just doing our onboarding training. It's not going to take a long time. But some training involved could take 20 hours, for example. That's when you have to really look at the company and think, is that worth it for me? If I complete those 20 hours unpaid training, what's in it for me afterwards? Am I going to have a fixed full schedule straight away? If not, you might want to consider whether that's worth your time or not. When it comes to demo lessons, generally speaking, and how I feel, is that you should be paid for a demo class. At the end of the day, your time is valuable. So you should be paid when you're meeting with a student who may or may not want to book with the company. You're still spending time teaching that student, right? You should get paid for that class. Some companies disagree. Some companies will not pay you unless the student actually converts. And that means that from the demo class that you teach, they then pay and book classes or block book a number of classes with the company. Then you'll get paid, and you might get a bonus on top of that for converting a student. So you really need to read that contract before you sign it with a company to ensure that you know whether you are paid for demo lessons or not, how much training is required before you actually start teaching your regular students. In the beginning as well, does take time to build up your schedule. So those first few weeks, even to the first couple of months, can feel really slow and like a drag because it takes time to build up your reputation within the platform, for students to book with you, to match students with your availability. There's lots of different factors involved. And that means that it does take a while to build up and fill your schedule that then leads to your income. So in the beginning, you might only have 1 or 2 classes a week, and these could be trial classes. And then after a few months, you'll see more regular students popping up on your schedule. So it's normal, it can feel very slow, but it's only temporary in the beginning. Number 3, pay rates. Pay is definitely a topic that is not my favorite when it comes to online ESL companies, because they're infuriating. So it's not always what you might be expecting. And if you are somebody that's coming back into the online ESL industry and you've maybe taken a few years out, it's definitely going to have changed. It was really good back in the day, especially during 2020 when everything went online. Pay rates were really, really good in the industry. You could be earning like $30 an hour plus bonuses teaching ESL online. Now that's almost unheard of without lots and lots of extra hours put involved. So the majority of the pay rates for native English speakers can be between $10 to $20 an hour. And when I say $20, that's like top rate with a company per hour. For non-native English speakers, so if you're a non-native English speaker but you have a high proficiency in English, think even lower, so less than $10 an hour for you to teach the same classes as a native English speaker. It makes me really angry that there's such a discrepancy between native and non-native English speakers' income, but the companies do base pay rates on the country that you are located in. Sucks, I know, but there's not a lot that we can do about it, unfortunately. So the reality is that you are paid per class that you teach, not per hour as well. So something else to think about, if you're offering 10 hours to a company, just because you offered those 10 hours does not mean you will get paid 10 hours a week. You will only get paid for the classes that you teach during those 10 hours. So if you've offered 10 hours and the company only fills your schedule with 3 hours worth of work, you will only get paid for those 3 hours. So this is where it's really important, and I've talked about this before in other sessions, that you diversify your income streams. So don't only work for one company, make sure that you have 2 or 3 companies on the go at once so that you can vary your schedule and you can book more hours with the company that's actually filling those hours for you rather than empty promises and not booking classes. There's also something else to think about, which is cancellations. Cancellations can happen where the students decided to take leave, and if that's happened before your class is due to start, then you will not be paid for that class. If it so happens that you're there for the lesson and the students cancelled last minute, generally companies overall will pay you for that class. It might not be the same rate, it could be for a cancelled rate, but most companies will pay you for your time because they've already charged the student. But it's not always the case. So that's something else to think about and read about in your contract. So something in terms of pay that I do want to offer as a reassurance is, because I know that industry rates now, especially compared to in the past, are really not very fair for people who, you have the right qualifications, you've got the experience. The pay rate doesn't quite add up. It's not on the same level, and it's definitely not something that's livable if you live in a country like me, for example. I'm in the UK. I could not solely live on the current pay rates that are offered in the industry with a company as a full-time rate. So something that I want to just say is that ESL companies are recommended as a starting point, or something I recommend as a starting point to get you going, to build up your confidence and your experience teaching ESL online, but they are not the end goal. The end goal is whatever you make from that. So once you've got the experience, you will learn what you like and dislike and what you want to take forward, perhaps with freelance teaching or perhaps with more behind the scenes in terms of building apps or maybe creating a curriculum for students or courses that students can do. Things like there's so much potential for income after you've gone in and you've gained that experience and you've explored things that you might like and that you definitely don't want to do moving forward. Okay, number 4, the rules and the monitoring all come with working for an online ESL company. So some things that companies offer, not all companies offer this, but they are included in the industry, teacher ratings. Some companies rely very heavily on the ratings that students will give each teacher. So if you've taught a class with a student, and let's say the ratings are between 0 and 5, 0 being worst class ever, 5 being best class, if they give you a rating of, 2.5, then it could mean that the company books less hours with you. So some companies very heavily and wrongly rely on students' ratings for which teachers they book more hours with. So it could just be that you have not gelled with that student. It's not that you're a bad teacher, it's just you haven't gelled with that student, it's not been a very good fit. But then that student gives you a bad rating and then you end up with less bookings. So that's something that's not very positive with the online ESL companies, but it does happen. Not with all companies, but it does happen in some of them. There's also lots of strict attendance rules and policies in place as well. So some companies say that you can only have so much sick leave. Some companies, if you cancel a class within a very short amount of time, you will be docked pay, as well as obviously losing that class pay anyway, but you'll be docked extra pay. Some companies offer bonuses. The bonuses will get taken away if you've had sick leave that month, for example, and so on and so forth. If you are late to class, maybe it's not your fault. Maybe you're in class and it's just that the platform technology is not working right now. There's a problem with it. That's still on you. It's very unheard of for the companies to take responsibility for their faults. So it's on you. There is a risk as an independent contractor that you will lose pay for various things. And it's something that can feel really, really stressful and frustrating at the time, especially if you're not expecting it. But it's just one of those comes along with the job, unfortunately, and just do everything that you can to minimize that being a risk. So read through the contract, make sure you understand everything, make sure you're happy with everything in terms of holidays, sick leave, that sort of stuff, and just try to follow the policies as much as possible so that you can navigate your way around them and minimize the risk of losing income. Number 5. Booking your schedule is not going to be instant. Of course, we have our onboarding training anyway to start with. And then it's not a case of, okay, next Monday is my first day. I'm going to have a full day's worth of classes. Nope, absolutely not. The students aren't going to magically just appear. There are different factors that impact your bookings. So the profile quality, so how you have built out your profile, and that will vary depending on the company of what information they ask for. But there might be a bio, a headshot image, a list of your qualifications and experience. So that can vary. If students are looking through different teacher profiles to then book with somebody, then you want to ensure that your profile is as professional as possible and highlights your skills and experience. Then of course your availability. If the peak hours are between 10 and 12 and you're offering 3 to 5, then it's less likely you're going to get bookings because most students are looking at that time slot, 10 till 12. So most of the classes are going to be within that time. So that's going to lower your chances of bookings. Then of course we have like time zone differences. I know that when there were lots of Chinese companies offering classes, My friends in America, some of them were getting up at like 4, half 4 in the morning to teach. There's no way I would do that. Absolutely not. So that's another thing that might impact your schedule, is if you are not available during those hours that the company offers, then again, your bookings are going to be limited. And of course, starting out new, the company is not going to offer you a full schedule. They want to test the water first from their side to make sure that you are a professional teacher, you're going to retain students rather than put off students from using the platform, and that you're going to help them convert students from trial classes into full-time students with their platform as well. So they're going to test the waters and offer you a few classes in the beginning, and then obviously your schedule will start building up from there. But it can take a few months to get that full schedule. So make sure that you're offering consistent hours, you're showing up on time, you're doing the best that you can from your end, and that will help your bookings grow. Number 6, companies are the stepping stone. They are not the forever plan. This is something really important, and I try to touch upon this in every one of our sessions. I know that I talk a lot about working with an online ESL company, but it is not the end goal. Online ESL companies are where most of us online teachers start out our career. They're great because they help build up your experience. If you're going from zero and then suddenly you're offering freelance, you have no idea what you're doing. Maybe you're great at the marketing side, but the teaching side, you haven't got any experience. How do you know what you're doing? How do you know what works with students? How do you know how to retain students' attention? How do you know what material is going to actually teach them properly and build up their skills progressively? How do you know how to build that curriculum so that it progresses rather than all over the place? And then when we start working with a company going from zero teaching experience, we have very little confidence in the beginning, but working with the company, the more classes that we teach, the better we feel, then the confidence will grow. And it's a great starting point in terms of when we work with the company, most companies provide everything for us. We don't have to market to find students. The students are booked automatically into our schedule. We don't often have to communicate with parents. We don't have to deal with the admin side of payment processing. We don't have to create lesson materials. Maybe you'd like to add some extra activities or props, those sorts of things, but that's very minuscule in terms of time and skill set versus creating a full curriculum. Most of the time, that is provided all for us. So it's a nice little package that we just have to show up for. Maybe we have to do some feedback or some training, but generally speaking, we just show up, log into the class, teach the class, and log off again. It's very simple when we work with a company versus a freelancer when you're responsible 100% for every single task. So working with a company is the starting point. It helps you learn on the job, and then you can decide what's next, and you have complete freedom to do that. A lot of the time I recommend online ESL company. Maybe you want to work with some marketplaces to teach adults and see if you prefer adults to children. Then you go down the freelance route, build your company out and your lessons exactly how you like. And that doesn't mean you have to start building a curriculum right away. There are so many built out curriculums that you can pay for online already. And you can use them within your classes, and you can teach who you want to teach, how you want to teach them, with what material as well. So freelance is the great thing that we are trying to build ourselves up to, and then diversify your income from there even further, so that you're not just trading time for money, but you're also building other income streams alongside your live classes to help build up, that rainy day pot. Or if you don't want to teach forever, then you've got something else that's building up alongside that you can replace your teaching income with. So that's the path that we talk about here at the OET. So online ESL companies, they're not a bad thing. They're not completely negative, but it's really important to be realistic and know what to expect before applying to the companies. They're an excellent starting point to help you build up your experience and confidence to start off your online ESL teaching career. If you want some more support and resources, maybe you're thinking about teaching ESL online, but you're not sure where to get started, join my link below to the free membership Mini ESL Teacher Toolkit. I've got a teaching ESL online guide. I've got quizzes to identify transferable skills that you might have that's suitable for teaching ESL online. And most importantly, I have a job board spreadsheet in there as well as a good starting point for finding companies that are hiring right now. I'll see you inside. Bye, friends!